That was a nice surprise. I didn't do any work. Didn't have to fix this little machine. You can see the chain stitch there. It's a pretty loose chain stitch, so it looks like I need to tighten the tension. But when I went to go do that, I noticed this tension knob doesn't turn any tighter. So I tried to loosen it off. And once I loosened it off, I noticed something. This tensioner has no spring. There's no spring between this tension wheel and the discs there. So this tensioner wheel was brought all the way to the bottom. I'm going to leave that off for a second because I have some springs over here. Let me go get some springs, see if I can find one to put in here and see if we can get the tension tightened up on this. Alright, so when I look at these discs here, one of the plus things I notice is it has a little hole. Let me get this over here for you. A little hole in it, and that little hole stops the discs from spinning because it goes on a little peg over here. So those two discs can squeeze against the thread but not spin as it's pulling thread. You need those discs not to be spinning on these little machines. They need to be stationary. And if you remember my USSR sewing machine, it's almost identical design to this one. It has the little tensioner that I had to drill holes and put a pin in, if you guys remember that. Remember, you can go back and check the video out, but I actually drilled the holes in the disc, put a pin in it, and it fixed the problem with the tension. Now this one, they knew that that was a problem, but there's a spring missing here, so I don't have any tensioner springs that small. These discs are smaller than a standard sewing machine, so I've gone into my handy dandy bin of springs here. I'm going to dump all these out, and I want to find a spring that is big enough to go around this and fit inside of here. Looks like that's broken to me. I just noticed that. See that? I'm going to have to get a drop of super glue in there and pinch that back together. But the spring is supposed to go between the big circle there and the discs. So what I need to do is go through my springs and find one that will fit over this piece here and not have too much spring tension. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this thin little spring. This might just do the trick. Wow. Wow, look at that. That is the perfect spring. Whenever I have old electronics and stuff, like old cassette players and VCRs and stuff that are going in the garbage, I'm just the type of person, I gotta pull things apart and see how they work and if I can fix them. And if I can't fix them, well, I tear them apart and I take pieces and parts and I keep it, like all these springs, all the stuff you see here. I don't just throw all the stuff away. I'm not a hoarder, but I do look at things like, I'm not going to run to a hardware store and try to find a spring. You know, if I can collect a bunch once in a while, it works out. And look at that. This has hardly any tension. That's very light tension, and that's what I want. You don't need much tension on these little machines, and it's short enough that when I compress it, look at that. Jeez, sometimes I just get lucky, eh? And sometimes I just was smart enough to keep the stuff that was worth keeping. I don't know. Some people call it junk, but here we are. I'm going to get the spring and try to put this on here, but I'm going to go and glue this tensioner wheel back together before I do that so that we don't lose the threaded sleeve that's inside of there. And then I'll be right back and we'll try this out. Well, there we go, guys. I got the spring in the tensioner there. But something I just noticed, I was like, the thread's a little bit low on the spool. I'm going to just go get another spool of thread. So this is my small spool of thread. It's an older one. A couple chips out of it. It's an old vintage spool that I have on the shelf, but it's a nice dark thread, and I thought it would show up well. But look how much smaller this spool is than this little one. I was like, oh, that's cute. No, this is really small. Well, there's a reason. This doesn't fit. You need this spool with this sewing machine. So this is not something you'd want to throw away. If you have one of these, I don't even know what brand it is. MC. If anybody can tell me about this machine, what brand it is, but I'm not sure. But we see here the spool is really small, and you have to rethread this yourself. So I had to let my dog out. Also like to apologize for the lighting. This is what happens when you don't make a video for a while. All your stuff starts to break down. I plugged in my light that I normally use, and it's like one of those ring lights for making videos. It works well, and it was working for a little while, and then it burnt out. And now I can't get it to work. So good old dollar store lights. Anyways, back to the video. So I'm going to have to go hand wrap some thread on this spool. I'm going to go do that right now, and then I'll be back. But yeah, this spool and this little rubber cap are important to this machine, because this goes here and then this goes there. You need this spool because it doesn't hit the deck. This spool hits the deck, but it's also too tall. I can't put the rubber cap on. This is specific for this machine. So let me get some thread on the spool and see if I got a better tension on that chain stitch. Okay, so I got the spring in there, I got the spool threaded, and I have the machine threaded. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This is not an easy machine to deal with. See that little tensioner there? Well, it's not a tensioner, it's a guide. To put that thread through the guide, you have to take this assembly apart, or you'll never get it. And that's probably why that spring got lost. And, oh yeah, you know what? I'll have the machine up close. Have you ever seen one of these batteries before? Yeah, that's an odd looking battery to me. They still make them. I looked online. They still make them. I don't think I'm going to order one for this little machine. It works with the hand crank, and the rubber belt's still good. And I'm assuming the one light switch does the light that's underneath of here, and this other switch is for getting the machine to go. But enough jibber jabber. Let's see if we can get this little sewing machine to get some tension. I don't want to tighten this up too much. I don't know how good this spring's going to work, but let's give it a go. Ooh, caught my tail there. Caught my tail there. See if we can keep on going, pushing through. See if I can pull that tail out of there. As my good friend Rob would say, do it twice theater. There we go. So get that little tail out of the way. Let's see what kind of tension we got on here. I'm going to flip this over and see. Oh yeah, that's looking a lot better. I'm just going to snug it up a bit more. Continue on the stitch. Wait till you see it now. Yes, sirree. I am happy. Okay, let's stop right there. Just a little snip. And make sure that needle's up out of the way. Yes, sir. Caught up on the hook there. Let's take a look at this. There's the top stitch. And look at that little chain stitch. There's the original one. Remember how loose that was? See how loose that chain stitch is there? That is a lot better. Now, it's not really tight right now. Like, I have the tensioner set all the way. It is bottoming out. So if I wanted to, I could pull that spring out of there and expand it a bit to create a little more tension against the discs. But I'm not going to be making any clothing with this. I just want to show off the chain stitch. It's actually pretty good, eh? Look at that. There's my Canadian coming out, eh? Yeah. Well, if my sister's watching, thank you very much for this toy sewing machine. There's how nice a stitch it makes. I'm quite happy with that. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this thrift store toy sewing machine that was gifted to me. That didn't need really much to get going. tension spring, a little bit of love. Thankfully, all the parts were there. And yeah, I'm happy with this little machine. So until next time, guys, stay safe. And I'll talk to you again soon. Play with this some more. Oh, I better get my thread a little bit.